Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions. This is DrShiny with a monthly tarot reading for Pisces for the month of March. So we're going to be doing a Celtic cross for you today, and this is a general reading, so it may not apply equally across the board for everybody, but if it doesn't resonate, it just wasn't for you. Now, if you are not a subscriber, please subscribe. And if you are a subscriber, if you would like some extra cards, please just ask me in the comments and I'll be happy to draw a few extra cards for you. And as always, please let me know what you think about the reading and if it resonates and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started with your reading. What we have for you today, got the Devil. Okay, all right, so for you, my Pisces friends, this is what we got. Now, what you have for your current situation is this Devil, and that Devil is he represents your desires and your ego. It represents also being kind of like led by your desires, or having a you can have this image in your head that is what's causing you to operate, and the easiest way to get rid of that is through some form of meditation, or reconnecting with reality apart from your thoughts, if that makes sense. So the purpose, there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially regarding spiritual matters that are sometimes a little bit more ambiguous or trendy, right? But in a nutshell, the original intent and purpose of meditation is to consciously silence your thoughts. So in effect, that's like saying consciously become unconscious, right? But what you start to realize is that you can be conscious without thinking. And when we say thinking, we're talking about conceptualizing or making symbols language, right? Words are a representation of reality, but they're not reality themselves. And so the Devil is an indication that there's some sort of idea in your head that is that has you kind of controlled. You've become a little bit of a puppet by these particular ideas, or you're inclined to. And so the idea here is to let go of that, to essentially chill. Now, what you have crossing you is the Seven of Coins. So the Seven of Coins is like you've put in some hard work and you are expecting a payoff. And generally it has a pretty good energy to it, because there's you're watching it grow and you're expecting it to come to you. But if in the crossing position, in this case, crossing that Devil, it could mean that you have a lot of expectations in this situation, that there is a way that things are supposed to happen, and that's kind of what's got you hung up here is you're resistant to allowing everything to just sort of play out the way that it wants to. You're looking to get something out of the situation. Okay, so what you're moving away from is the World in the reverse. The World represents kind of like the end of a cycle, the completion of some realization or development in your life. But in the reverse, it's like you're kind of resistant to it. There's one last thing that needs to be done, one step. But this is in your past, right? This is what you're moving away from. So it looks as though you're approaching the end of or you may be at the end of a particular cycle, and so this Devil may present the exact thing that you're having to overcome, and it seems to be strongly associated with some kind of expectation. So we'll see if we get some more clarity on that. But what we have for your future, or what you're moving toward, is the Emperor here in the reverse. So the Emperor can mean, in the reverse, it can mean like a overbearing attitude or attempting. Now, let me back up a hair here and just say, when I give you the future and the situation here, this is sort of a snapshot of what's going on right now. So this is not necessarily going to be, set in stone. I'm not your puppet master. I can't guarantee you that you're going to do a certain thing, right? You have free will. You have the ability to guide your own destiny, and I don't want to take that away from you. I wouldn't if I could, right? So this is kind of a snapshot of the direction that you're headed now. So hearing this, you have a perfect ability on your own to choose a different direction, to choose a different future. It's not like I'm condemning you to this. But where you're headed now is a sort of like overbearing. So the Emperor is kind of like a masculine energy, right? This is authority. Concepts of authority and law and things like that come from, he's the enforcer of these things. And in the reverse, it's overbearing. It's somebody who is a little bit tyrannical even, or abuses others with his authority, or abuses his authority. Okay, so your expectations in this situation could be leading you to becoming a little bit difficult to work with, because you want things to happen a certain way so badly. You might alienate others who you don't want to alienate. That may be where this is going. Okay, so the foundation of the situation here, this Knight of Wands, the foundation kind of represents like what lesson is the universe trying to teach you through this situation. What is the whole theme of what's going on in your life right now? And what you have is this Knight of Wands. And so the Knight of Wands is like he's a doer. He's very involved with action. Wands represent action and willpower and passion. And the Knight he's no longer, the court cards are kind of like a mastery of these particular elements. And with the Knight, he's past the Page. The Page is that childlike, very immature energy. Then you get into the Knight, where the Knight has a little bit less fear. He charges into these situations, but that doesn't mean things always go well. He's not always in control of the situation, but he plunges in and kind of works his way through it with some gusto, right? In this case, the Knight of Wands is probably one of the most active, but also can be one of the more rash of the knights, where he'll jump in, shoot first, ask questions later, and that type of thing. So this is definitely a challenge for you to sit back a little bit and think about, first of all, if you're going to jump in and you're going to act, can you simultaneously be sure that you're not affecting other people in ways that you didn't intend, right? So that's the difficulty with this, is that it's really easy to just do something. It's really easy for you to just jump in and do something. Although for a lot of people, it's hard to learn that. It's hard to learn to do that. But once you do, now the challenge is, how do you jump in and do something while simultaneously not making big mistakes or affecting the situation in a way that you didn't intend to? Part of that is being able to turn the things that come across as accidents into some new direction or new benefit, and kind of keep it going like a string of dominoes falling down, right? So keeping that energy moving, keeping it rolling. But that can be kind of exhausting after a while too. So this is about kind of learning how that Knight has to find this balance of action and stillness, or self-reflection, or letting go of desires and things like that, and finding rest. So that's a tough line to cross here. This one's very, very subtle compared to many of the other readings that I've done, but I'm hoping that maybe it's meaning something for some of you here. Now, what we have for your crowning thoughts, this is kind of what's on your mind, what's on your conscious thoughts. You have that 9 of coins, and the 9 of coins is like it's a successful state of being. It's where you've made some strides, you've overcome things. It's a little bit ahead of that 7. So you're kind of maybe ahead of yourself a little bit in where you're thinking about wanting to be very successful, having these ideas of success. And the 9 also has an energy of kind of rest, where... So what might be going on here is that you might be thinking that you have to make all these accomplishments. You have to get there before you can kind of like take a break and appreciate what's going on around you. That's a little bit of a trap. That could be exactly what the devil has dangled in front of you here, because what you'll begin to realize is that there is always something more to be done. There's always something else in the future to be moving toward, and if you're really always looking to that, there's never going to be opportunity for rest. So he can kind of control you that way by kind of always having you looking out for that harvest, that thing that's supposed to be coming next. So the trick is to not really be looking for it so much or hung up on waiting for it, but to instead, take a step back and just live, to be, to exist, and what comes to you comes to you. So advice for the situation is this 2 of Cups, and the 2 of Cups is very, very heavily associated with relationships. Now, it not all the time. It can also just represent sort of like a harmonious balance of forces, like within yourself or something like that. But very commonly, and I mean, it's so common that I almost feel comfortable just telling people like this means that there's some sort of a relationship going on here. But in the context of advice here, this is asking you not to forsake your good, harmonious relationships that you have. This is telling you to remember that this is very important. The success and all that other stuff, it's great if it happens, but it is not nearly as important as keeping this type of harmonious relationship, because it's like you can go after this at the expense of one of these good harmonious relationships, and you might never get that back. These are hard to find. Success is easy to find. It doesn't feel that way all the time, but I promise you, success is easy. What's hard is finding the right fit, these harmonious, really well balanced relationships. So make sure that you put some focus there. Now, for your environment, there's this 10 of Swords. Okay, so the 10 of Swords, it's very grim, right? There's like all these swords sticking out of this person's back. So it's kind of a nasty little situation that this person has got into. And the general energy with it is like all is lost. But it's not just that. There's a very important part of this is that there is always this sort of like, if everything failed today, that kind of frees you up, right, for tomorrow. Now, I mean, in this guy's case, he looks pretty dead, so I guess he's not really gonna carry on. But you're reading a tarot, or you're listening to a tarot reading, so you're not dead. So there's always something else that you can move on from this too. And that's the general idea here, is that there's always this sort of like light at the end of the tunnel, or something else on the horizon that's coming. Now, in the context of your environment, right, this is meaning what's going on around you. So it could be that you have a lot of people who are feeling like it all is lost, or everything really sucks right now, or something like that. And it could be that it is your responsibility to sort of inspire faith that everything is going to work out okay, right? That everything is going to be all right. So, look out for an opportunity to brighten up someone's day if they're feeling down, because that's going to be an important role for you during this month. Okay. Now, your fears card, you have that 4 of coins up here. 4 of coins is being a little bit stingy with money, or kind of saving too much, or not being active. So this being in your fears card, I think what it could mean is that you, even though you are obviously focused on success, or you want success, you're kind of not, you're afraid that you might not be able to do it quickly, that you might be able to, or you might have to just kind of set it aside and have like a boring experience while on this journey to success that you are wanting. And it may be so. It may be that that is the case, but you don't have to look at it quite that way. You don't have to look at it as you're not going to have any fun, or this is going to be an awful experience. There are ways for you to kind of strike a middle balance there between, setting everything aside and saving and all that, and then also getting things that you want, moving quickly. From like an investment perspective, you don't want to necessarily put all of your funds in very risky investments, but you can put the bulk of your investments in safe, steady growth, and then use a small sliver for more speculative investments, right? So that's the kind of idea here, is that you don't have to be really daring or adventurous, but you also you also don't have to just do nothing or sit on everything. There's sort of a balance there. Now, what we have for your overall message, or where this is headed in the long run, you have the 2 of Swords in the reverse. Now, the 2 of Swords kind of reminds me of what was going on with the devil in your current situation. The 2 of Swords is about like being a little bit paralyzed by not knowing which way to go. And this person, she's here, she's blindfolded, and she has the 2 swords in her hand. So she's kind of like not sure which way to try to defend herself. Like an attack could come from either way. She doesn't really know which way to go. And what can happen is, if you're trying to defend yourself and you're looking for the attack to come from one way or another, a lot of times, you're projecting energy in one direction, but that opens you up in another direction. You're now vulnerable in some other direction. Whereas if you're not jumping the gun, if you're not going ahead or trying to anticipate what's going to happen, you have freed up a whole lot of mental energy, which allows you to react quite a bit quicker. So you actually, it's kind of like a Chinese finger trap, right? Where you think that you need to focus more or prepare more to be safer, but in reality, being safer or focusing more is working to your detriment, because you don't know what's going to happen until it happens. So the idea here, and being in the reverse, there's kind of an unwillingness to be laid back, or to not allow yourself to relax. You feel like you're having to prepare, you're having to work towards something. So this is an opportunity, I think, for you to look for more passive ways of being, more passive ways of making your decisions, to where you don't have to make quite such rash actions. And that kind of goes back to your Knight of Wands here. He wants to jump in a little too much. He wants to act when action is not necessary. So if you can kind of sit back a little bit, and I can't remember who made the quote, but I love putting quotes in my readings, so kind of appropriate for this particular reading. If you're attempting to meditate and the devil shows up, make the devil meditate with you. That's a way to really stick it to him, right? And that's kind of the idea for you here, is that you might feel as though there's this monster on your back, that you got to get something done, you got to do something, but resist anyway, you know? Chill anyway, stop anyway. Be a little bit of a rebel when it comes to that, and that will help you in this situation tremendously. Take time to be deliberate and calm when you enter these situations. Okay, so that's about it for you, my Pisces friends, for the month of March. Please let me know how you liked that. Leave me some comments, and I will see you guys next time.